A government source described the situation in Gaza as a complete catastrophe, with severe food and water shortages and tens of thousands of Palestinians trying to escape deadly Israeli bombardment and an impending ground operation. The military of Israel said on Saturday that in reaction to the extraordinary terrorist acts of October 7 by the Islamist militant organization Hamas, which occupies the enclave, its troops are prepared for the following phases of the conflict, which would include combined and coordinated strikes from the air, sea, and land. U.S. President Joe Biden called the Hamas attack the worst massacre of Jewish people since the Holocaust, with at least 1,300 people slain. The Pentagon has sent a second carrier strike group and squadrons of fighter planes to the area as a deterrent to Iran and Iranian proxies, such as Hezbollah in Lebanon, since the prolonged combat now poses a rising danger of regional spillover. Residents of Gaza are running out of time as they evacuate south through the damaged streets after the Israeli military ordered them to leave the more populated northern regions of the Strip. The 2 million people who live in Gaza are mostly concentrated in the northern area, which Israel has recommended be evacuated. Only a smaller area of the 140 square miles is now home to several households, some of whom were previously internally displaced. Cars, taxis, pickup trucks, and carts drawn by donkeys were all filled with civilians. Snaking lines of cars packed with beds and bags clogged the roads. People who had no other choice but to walk carried everything they could. According to Israel Defense Forces (IDF) spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conmarkis, CNN would be able to confirm that major military actions would start only if it is determined that people had left the area early on Sunday. "I can't emphasize this enough. The time has come for Gazans to leave." Over the weekend, Israeli airplanes continued to bombard Gaza, even as residents evacuated south. Tens of thousands of civilians fled their homes on Friday, following the IDF's instructions, and footage from the area showed explosions and corpses along a Gaza evacuation route. Videos verified by CNN showed extensive damage along Salah al-Din Street, a major escape route. There are many corpses seen on a flatbed trailer that seems to have been used to transport people out of Gaza City, some of which are children's. The Israeli Defense Forces denied on Sunday any involvement of the Israeli armed forces in the attack on Salah al-Din Street. IDF spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner told CNN that we were only able to confirm and announce that this was not on IDF strike this morning. Instead, Lerner said that the explosion came from beneath, implying some sort of explosive device, based on video that the IDF had seen. Since the fighting began a week ago, 2,329 Palestinians have died and over 9,000 have been wounded, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry, with 300 of those deaths occurring in the last 24 hours. The spokesman for the Palestinian Health Ministry said that the number of casualties in Gaza over the last 8 days has already exceeded the number of people killed during the 51-day confrontation between Gaza and Israel in 2014. 60% of those slain in Gaza during the last week were women and children, according to Richard Brennan, a representative with the World Health Organization in Cairo, who spoke with CNN. Numerous UN organizations have issued warnings, stating that a mass evacuation under a blockade would ultimately result in catastrophe and that the most vulnerable Gazans, the sickly, old, pregnant, and disabled, will not be able to evacuate at all. Israel has been denying the people of Gaza access to food, water, and power for days. With Gaza's health system on the verge of collapse, the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, has issued a warning about the nightmare condition that the 50,000 pregnant women there face. Dominic Allen, a UNFPA official, said that around 5,000 women are anticipated to give birth in the next month, some of whom may have difficulties. "We have nowhere to send these pregnant ladies, about whom we are really worried. "They're up against unimaginable obstacles," he said in a Sunday interview with CNN. Avril Benoit, executive director of Doctors Without Borders, MSF, said, despite Israeli announcements suggesting that there are safe areas for people trapped in the Gaza Strip, they are in fact exposed to bombardment throughout the entire territory, including in the south. An increasing number of countries, human rights organizations, and advocacy groups are pleading with Israel to adhere to international war regulations, save the lives of civilians, and refrain from attacking medical facilities, schools, and clinics. The foreign minister of Jordan issued a dire warning, claiming that Israel's activities in Gaza are punishing more than 2 million Palestinians collectively and producing a humanitarian crisis. The World Food Programme, WFP, issued a warning on Sunday, stating that it needs to restock its reserves as soon as possible since they are running low within Gaza. In an interview with CNN on Sunday from Cairo, WFP Regional Director Corinne Fleischer said that the organization had food for 1.3 million people for 2 weeks piled up at the borders into Gaza, and that people are really getting hungry. According to Fleischer, the World Food Programme has so far distributed bread, canned goods, and cash for shopping to 520,000 individuals in Gaza. On Sunday, they want to reach 224,000 individuals. Fleischer said, "We are still distributing in spite of the complete chaos, and our staff members being themselves in shelters without food, mattresses, water, or electricity. There are desperate calls for humanitarian assistance to be led into Gaza as food, clean drinking water, and medical supplies are running short." Video footage shows relief convoys arriving at Egypt's El Arish Stadium in order to travel into Gaza through the Rafah border crossing. Thousands of Gazans are stranded at the border, and relatives have told CNN that they have been unable to enter Egypt. Sami Shokri, the foreign minister of Egypt, said to CNN on Saturday that although Egypt has attempted to send humanitarian supplies to Gaza, it has not been granted the necessary permission. Ultimate disaster in Gaza. The people who own generators that run on gasoline will soon be living in total darkness since there is no longer any electricity. Additionally, fewer people have access to the internet, which allows locals to tell the world about their predicament. Benoit of MSF told CNN on Saturday that a large number of Gaza residents are starting to experience acute dehydration. According to Benoit, everyone feels like they are likely to be collateral damage. "It's a total disaster now. The healthcare system there has always been extremely fragile and was regarded as a humanitarian chronic emergency for a very long time." Spokesman for the Palestine Red Crescent Society Nabil Farsak told CNN that the situation in Gaza is devastating and that despite Israel's notification to evacuate the Al-Quds hospital in Gaza City, they lacked the resources to carry out the evacuation. "There are around 300 patients in the hospital right now. A portion of them are in the critical care unit. Our kids are in incubators. They cannot be evacuated," Farsak said. A death sentence for the sick and injured. The World Health Organization said on Saturday that it strongly condemns Israel's repeated orders for the evacuation of 22 hospitals in Gaza. According to a statement from the WHO, all patients who are evacuated and forced to relocate while without access to life-saving medical care run an immediate risk of worsening their conditions or perhaps passing away. Some patients are being treated in corridors and outdoors in surrounding streets due to a lack of hospital beds, it said. Medical institutions in northern Gaza are trying to keep up with the surge of wounded patients. How could a ground invasion appear? Israel, which has gathered a large number of soldiers and military hardware along the Gaza border, said that it would be stepping up its onslaught, including hundreds of thousands of reservists, and using a wide range of operational offensive plans. Israel's army is getting ready for an expanded arena of combat, in addition to frequent airstrikes, the Israel Defense Forces (IDF) said in a statement on Saturday. An emphasis on significant ground operations has been put in the preparations. According to a new CNN study, Hamas has shown military prowess much beyond what was previously believed, and it is likely well prepared for the next stage of the conflict. Up to 150 hostages who have been taken by Hamas and are being kept in the packed enclave include women, children, soldiers, and the elderly. This complicates an Israeli attack in Gaza. Despite the difficulties that a densely populated region adds to the struggle, IDF spokeswoman Kamarkis said that freeing the captives from Gaza is a high priority. Referring to Hamas's complex system of tunnels, he said the captives are probably kept underground in a number of locations. The combat will go slowly. We will go cautiously and at a gradual pace, he said. Israel is fighting Hamas, but it also has to worry about new fronts in a larger confrontation. Israel has said that it is prepared for any strikes from Syria or Lebanon, its neighbors. Aleppo International Airport was destroyed and made inoperable by an Israeli air aggression that originated in the Mediterranean Sea, according to a late Saturday claim from Syria's military. Iran's UN mission issued a warning on Saturday, stating that the situation could spiral out of control and ricochet far-reaching consequences if Israel continues to strike Gaza. According to Iran's official news agency IRNA, the remarks were made on Saturday at a meeting between Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh and Iran's foreign minister Hossein Amir-Abdollahian in Doha, Qatar. According to the outlet, this was Haniyeh's first formal meeting with Iranian officials since the latter's unexpected strike on Israel, which Hamas dubbed the Aqsa Storm. International observers are keenly monitoring hostilities with neighboring Lebanon, since a worsening of hostilities might attract the influential paramilitary organization Hezbollah, which is supported by Iran, into the fight. Lebanese land, including Hezbollah bases, has been the target of Israeli assaults for many days due to rocket launches into Israel by Palestinian terrorists stationed in Lebanon. Hezbollah has used precision-guided rockets to retaliate against Israeli frontier fortifications. Following Hezbollah's strike on the disputed Shebaa farms on the Israel-Lebanon border on Saturday, CNN crews on the ground reported extended bombardment. Israel then retaliated. At the funeral of Reuters journalist Isam Abdallah, who was murdered on Friday when Israel fired artillery into the area where he and other journalists were, mourners also gathered on Saturday in southern Lebanon. The incident along the border with Lebanon is being investigated, according to the IDF. The U.S. Dwight D. Eisenhower, a second carrier strike group, has been ordered by the Pentagon to join the U.S. Gerald R. Ford strike group in the eastern Mediterranean Sea in response to the regional security crisis. Although the U.S. warships are not meant to take part in Israel's operations or fight alongside Israel in Gaza, their presence, two of the Navy's most potent vessels, is meant to send a deterrent message to Iran and its allies in the area. Reporting was supplied by CNN's Maria Knight, Kareem Kader, Ayad Kordi, Sana Norhak, Handi Atay Alam, Adam Poramadi, Sarah El Sergani, Tamara Kiblawi, Pauline Lockwood, and Chloe Liu.